fired on the officers again at least twice. At this time, the officers returned fire, mortally wounding the suspect.
Albuquerque police tangled up in another fatal officer-involved shooting. We have the latest.
Also snow, rain, cold temperatures across the state as a winter storm continues to pass through. We're breaking down what you need to know as you get ready to face your day today. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to KRQE This Morning. I'm Adam Atchison.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Krista Gutierrez. Thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday, January 14th. Okay, there are school closures and delays this morning. They are scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Winter weather is being blamed.
Yeah, and we need to get an update from Kristen Curry. That snow is already left, or storm I should say, has already left behind quite a bit of snow, more on the way. Let's turn to the video first, show you what happened overnight. Rain soaked the metro area in just the last few hours. That video was shot overnight that we're showing you here in northeast Albuquerque. From the east mountains to the west mesa, drivers will face wet roads, but we're facing sort of the last bit of the winter storm right now. Now we turn to Kristen Curry. She has the latest on radar. Good morning, Kristen.
And good morning, guys. Yeah, it's kind of like deja vu. This morning's radar looks a lot like what we saw yesterday, but I promise this is the last morning we're going to be dealing with it for this week. You can see a lot of it pushing into the metro area, and that's what we're watching. I know it's snowing about light to moderately out across the West Mesa, so we'll watch for some of those accumulations. Foothills, we got in a report on Twitter of it starting to pick up in the snow. On the valley floor, most of this is rain, but the streets are wet across the city, even into Edgewood, out along I-40. And going the other way west along Interstate 40, we're still looking at some wet streets and slick spots. So please give yourself extra time to get where you need to go this morning. Camera bouncing around. Not only are we dealing with the snow this morning here in the Albuquerque area, but also the wind. Wind's coming at us out of the east-southeast about 13 miles per hour. So that definitely is not going to help the visibility either. So really, it's going to be a little tough getting to work or school this morning. We're going to be tracking it here, and I'll break down the details on when this snow will eventually clear out of the state. That coming up in about 15 minutes.
As Kristen just mentioned, the storm will linger on for most of the morning.
As she's tracking that storm, we're keeping an eye on the roads for you as you prepare to head out the door. News 13's Catherine Mazzone is live in northeast Albuquerque with a closer look at what drivers may face as they step outside. Catherine?
Well, that's right, Adam. When you step outside this morning, you'll obviously notice the cooler temps, but take a look around me. It is really coming down out here right now, and it means that the roads are going to be slicker for your morning commute, so you'll want to take it a little bit slower. Be cautious. Now take a look at what the west side of Albuquerque looked like after the snow hit hard yesterday morning. The roads were icy near Unser and Southern, and with the cold temps, we could see that again this morning. The drive in Santa Fe could be slick this morning, too, after lots of snow fell up there. Police responded to tons of crashes, and even the roundhouse turned white with all of the snow. Now, back here in the Northeast Heights, like I said, it's really coming down. We're seeing a lot of snow this morning. It's an area that saw some rain overnight, too, so the roads are wet again, but not too slick. Still, you want to take it a little bit slower on your morning commute. Back to you, Adam.
Catherine, thank you. As you know, slippery roads are often the reason for school delays or closures. It's not too bad in Albuquerque yet this morning. It's wet roads. You can see the snow coming down there in Catherine's live shot. So things are operating normally here. But there are other delays and closures throughout the state. They're scrolling at the bottom of your screen, even through the commercial breaks. Here's what you can expect as far as road conditions on your commute earlier this morning. This is a live look at nmroads.com, and it paints sort of a picture of where the trouble spots are this morning, including east of Albuquerque on I-40 and also down in the Socorro area and sort of the central to southern part of the state. We're watching all of that for you, and if you want to know more about driving conditions, you can always call 511. That'll paint a picture for you of what roads look like across the state if you have to travel a little bit further than just the office this morning. Hey, your photos show just how widespread the effects of the storm are. Skeeter Applegate sent us this photo of the snow in Regina, and as you can see, almost everything in sight was covered with snow, several inches there. This next one was sent to us by Darren McInnes in Durango, where a thick blanket of snow buried everything outside. It's pretty. And Amy Doherty shows us the winter wonderland in Nogal, where the flakes were covering the trees, gave us a spectacular display. We want you to send your photos in to report it. Show them off, KRQE.com. We might feature some on air and online. And as the storm sweeps through New Mexico, we'll continue tracking it for you. We'll bring you the very latest forecast, school closures, and delays throughout the day and online at KRQE.com.
Our other top story this morning, Albuquerque police shoot and kill a suspect they say shot at them a number of times. This is a top story again that we will continue to develop today, and something we are staying on top of. This morning we're hearing from police about what led up to that shooting.
He began to look for the subject that had run, at which time the second male subject produced a firearm and shot at him at least twice.
And this morning, that suspect is dead. Police were called to the area of Constitution in San Mateo to check on a couple of suspicious-looking people walking around. Police arrested one man. The other took off up Constitution, but not before police say he fired at least 2 shots at officers. APD says police did not fire back at that time. Soon after, officers found the suspect again and again. The suspect shot at officers. Now, that time, APD says the police officers did shoot back, killing the suspect.
A gun was found next to the suspect, and we did determine that he was wearing a bulletproof vest at the time.
Now, police say there is lapel cam video from the officers that they are looking at today. We're hearing 2 police officers have been placed on leave. As for the other suspect, our cameras caught him getting loaded up into an ambulance at the scene. We learned that he will be arrested. He wasn't injured, but complaining of dizziness. Officers cleared the scene at about 1:30 this morning. Coming up in our next half hour, people immediately pulled out their cell phones and uploaded video from the scene to the web. We'll have that, plus witnesses, what they had to say about it, coming up. And as we get updates on this recent officer-involved shooting, we'll bring them to you. Stay with KRQE and KRQE.com throughout the day.
Time is 6:06. APD is expected to make an announcement about the Federal Monitor sometime today. The Federal Monitor is an individual selected by the city and the feds to oversee the reform process and make sure that the APD is implementing all of those changes the DOJ says they have to make. The group APD Forward says whoever gets selected can make or break the reform process.
Without a good monitor, there's no guarantee that the best settlement agreement or consent decree in the world can actually carry through an actual reform of a police department that has a pattern and practice of constitutional violations.
There were 17 applications for the job, among them former FBI Director Louis Freeh, who investigated the Penn State sex abuse scandal. A judge has to approve the final selection. To read more about the monitor selection process, you can go to KRQE.com right now. Vandals tagged a New Mexico State police car with a vulgar message. We can't repeat what's written, and we've blurred it out here. But early Sunday morning, somebody spray painted a swear word in reference to officers on that squad car. It happened at an apartment complex in Albuquerque's International District. The officer it belongs to wasn't there at the time. State Police Chief Pete Casetta says the vandalism is disheartening, and it's doubtful the tagger will be caught. Officers were able to clean that car off with some basic chemicals. The 2 deputies who captured the man police say shot an APD officer are being called heroes this morning.
The thing that people don't realize is that when most of us are asleep at 4 o'clock in the morning, these 2 deputies were out there actively working and wanting to do something.
Bernalillo County deputies Wesley Buster and Brayson Deering received an honor last night. They were on patrol on the 6th when they spotted a man limping near Edith and Montano. Concerned for his safety because of the cold weather, they eventually identified him as Christopher Cook, the man accused of shooting Officer Lou Golson during a traffic stop 3 days earlier. They arrested Cook. As for Officer Golson, he continues to recover.
This morning, Al-Qaeda is now claiming responsibility for the attacks in France. This as the French satire newspaper Charlie Hebdo is releasing its first issue for the first time since the horrific attack last week. In many places, they have already sold out as people in Paris rushed stores and newspaper stands to get their hands on the millions of copies of newspaper that's already generating controversy this morning. The cover, a picture of the Prophet Muhammad holding a sign that translates to "I am Charlie," with a caption that reads, "All is forgiven." 12 people were killed in the attacks at the newspaper's office last week. 4 more people were killed in the siege just days later, along with the gunman. Authorities are still searching for more suspects believed to be connected to those attacks. Our other top story this morning, a man is dead after Albuquerque police say he shot at them not once but twice.
It wasn't until the second time the suspect pulled a gun and fired shots that police fired back. Officers were out at the scene all night. They cleared that scene early this morning. That's where News 13's Catherine Mazzone is now near San Mateo and Constitution with the latest. Catherine?
Good morning, Adam. Now, we came back to the scene this morning. This is where police say it all ended. Take a look behind me. If you look closely, you can see what appears to be a number of bullet holes in this wall. Now, we're expecting more information from police today about the shooting that happened just before 5 yesterday afternoon. Now, they say it all started when they were responding to reports of suspicious activity in the area and came across two men.
When the officer arrived, he was checking through the area, trying to find these subjects when he encountered them at approximately Quincy and Constitution. As he approached the subjects, one of the male subjects took off running.
Police say they were able to take one of those men into custody, placing him in the back of his cop car. They then went after the second suspect. That's when police say the man fired a number of shots at them before taking off. Police say they didn't return fire at that time. Soon after, they found the man near Constitution and Aspen.
The subject was then located again by two other police officers, and as they were giving him commands to stop, he fired on the officers again at least twice. At this time, the officers returned fire.
The man died at the scene. Of course, witnesses immediately took out their cell phones and started recording video. We found this one on YouTube of the scene, where you can see police standing in an alleyway and what appears to be a body nearby. Now, police did say they recovered a gun found next to the suspect. They also add that he was wearing a bulletproof vest when they found him. Back to you.
All right, Catherine, thank you. Police say there is lapel camera video that they're looking at right now. And as of right now, we're hearing 2 officers have been placed on leave in this case.
New this morning, we're hearing from neighbors and witnesses who were there on scene as it all unfolded.
And all of a sudden, at least good eight gunshots. I went to the front of my house. I looked out and I see them flipping a man over, putting handcuffs on him. And it was at least 15, 20 minutes before an ambulance even showed up. After you shoot somebody, at least you should stop the blood or, something, help them out, and none of that took place.
The man would later die. One witness tells News 13 he was leaving a grocery store when he witnessed police in hot pursuit of the suspect. Now, given the scrutiny the department is under at this time, the neighbor says he believes the department is trying their very best to get this right.
They're in a fishbowl. I think they've got a lot of people out here saying that they can get it right. Given the pressure they're under, it must have been a justified situation.
Now, most neighbors we spoke to say that area is normally quiet and they are shocked something like this happened. Anti-police brutality protests started at the scene early last night. Protesters tell News 13 they will continue today. Now, this is what it looked like at the scene overnight. You can see the group of protesters was fairly small at that time. And as we get updates on this recent officer-involved shooting, we'll bring them to you, of course, on air and online at KRQE.com throughout the day.
Time is 6:36. This is the 3rd Albuquerque police officer involved shooting in just under 2 weeks. The first when Officer Lou Golson was ambushed during a DWI stop. Police say he was shot 3 times after pulling suspect Christopher Cook over near San Mateo and Montgomery. According to officers, Cook ran away. Golson is now recovering in the hospital. APD tells us he may be released soon. The deputies who caught Cook are speaking with News 13 about the arrest. The pair was honored at a Bernalillo County Commissioner meeting last night for finding 36-year-old Cook. The deputies say they were checking on a man staggering on Edith near Montano, but when they talked with him and got a closer look, they realized it was Cook. They made the arrest and then an important phone call to a fellow deputy.
I graduated with Lou Golson's son, so I was more excited to call him and tell him that I got the guy who shot his dad.
He was just very grateful and excited to tell his dad that the guy is off the street and can't hurt another officer.
Golson was shot 3 times. APD tells us he is still in the hospital, but he may be released soon.
And this morning, that undercover APD officer who was shot by a lieutenant last week remains in critical condition. It happened during a botched drug bust last Friday in the McDonald's parking lot on Central near Tramway. Detective Jacob Grant is still in critical condition at UNM Hospital after numerous surgeries. Detective Holly Garcia suffered a minor injury. They were working undercover, taking down 2 suspected meth dealers. Just days after the first 2 APD officers ever charged for an officer-involved shooting death, we're learning which district court judge will preside over the preliminary hearing. The officers face a murder charge in the James Boyd case. Judge Lisa Hadfield will determine whether there is enough evidence to prosecute Keith Sandy and Dominic Perez. A date for the preliminary hearing has not been set just yet.
We questioned Mayor R.J. Berry about the charges those officers now face. We asked him if he agrees or disagrees with the DA's decision. He did not say specifically, but he did offer this.
All I can do is what the rest of us as citizens do, and that is that we can trust that the judicial system will make this transparent, fair, unbiased for the community, for the family that was involved with James Boyd, and for the officers.
The mayor says he does trust the preliminary hearing will be a transparent process, and he acknowledges more work needs to be done for APD to get better. But the mayor says on average there were fewer police shootings last year. Well, it's going to be a tough day for students at Barindo Middle School in Roswell.
Yeah, it was a year ago today that a student took a gun to school and opened fire in the gym. It was a day that many will never forget. Just before classes started, 12-year-old Mason Campbell entered the gym with a shotgun and opened fire. Two students, Nathaniel Tavares and Kendall Sanders, were seriously injured. The shotgun blast left pellets throughout Sanders' body. Tavares received several surgeries because he had serious injuries to his head. Doctors told his family it's highly unlikely that he will fully regain his eyesight. The shooter, Mason Campbell, pled no contest to bringing a deadly weapon to school and aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. He is currently serving an 8-year sentence at the Juvenile Detention Center here in Albuquerque. Angry protesters this morning after a woman's memorial service was abruptly stopped. Friends and family say a Denver area church refused to host Vanessa Collier's memorial because of video that showed her and her wife kissing. The church canceled services 15 minutes after it began. The family was forced to move their service to a nearby funeral home.
Well, more cases of the measles this morning tied to Disney theme parks. Health officials in Florida say 7 more measles cases have surfaced in California, bringing the total now to 26 in 4 states. Disney officials say they're working with health workers to provide the necessary assistance. And even health workers are saying you actually become infectious 4 days before the rash shows up with measles, so you can be infecting other people and not even know it.
Oh, wow, that's pretty dangerous.